what are the layers of bureaucracy that we're actually facing? So, the bureaucratic systems that we exist in, they've been kind of developed and built upon over many, many years, sometimes over even centuries or even millennia, as systems to kind of control society, right? To make sure that we're all playing nice together in some way or another. And so, there's bureaucracy on the international level, right? The way that we interact with one another, or even trade agreements, can be a level of bureaucracy. There is federal bureaucratic standards that we have to wade our way through, and that can include both, the government itself, as well as all of the agencies that represent and handle different functions, right? All of those agencies are also part of the bureaucracy, and they all have their own bureaucracy from within them. Then you can move down to the state level, which again, there's a lot of, the state itself, and then there's a bunch of different agencies under that that all have their own bureaucracy. And then all the way down to the local level, right? We have municipalities. So your board of commissioners, your zoning hearing board, those are other levels of bureaucracy, and all of them control and monitor different aspects of our society. And so it's really important to understand what those bureaucratic systems are so that you know where to even try to place the lever that you're trying to work on. Now, the other question that we kept, running back on is, isn't the system broken? Isn't it not working? I mean, take a look at the news page for a minute, and you can see that the system has some major flaws to it, but it's still there, right? And the fact that it's not working the way that we want it to means that we need to change that system within the bureaucratic systems that's there, but you still have to relate to it. You still have to work with it because it can make a really big difference for your energy and time. And the fact of the matter is, if you don't interact with the bureaucratic system, I can guarantee you, there are other people that are. There are other people that are interacting with that system. And if you don't act, you're going to get whatever they want, right? So you have to put the time and the energy into to relating with these systems. Um, Governments also can't be counted on to enforce all of the laws, right? There's too much. I always use the analogy of a highway, right? We've all been on the highway. We've probably all sped on the highway, and yet we haven't all been pulled over, despite the fact that that's illegal. There are not enough cops to pull over every single bad driver. There, similarly, government agencies can't pull over or, fine or cite every single person, every bad actor that's out there. So there are circumstances where you can step in and be a part of that bureaucratic system in order to enforce the Clean Air Act or the Clean Water Act or nuisance laws or noise laws at a local level. So knowing where those levers are is really important. The other part is that the law is not black and white, right? There's a lot of different nuances to the law. There's a reason that lawyers go to law school and that we actually have to go in and argue and that we can't just be like, look, the law, right? There's a lot of different ways that those can be interpreted. The Supreme Court just interpreted a bunch of laws on Wednesday, right? And puts these decisions out. And so you can actually influence that, right? And make them use their discretion one way or the other in the process of making those kinds of decisions. And finally, and maybe most importantly, is that if you do not engage with the system, you can actually just lose your rights, right? There's a lot of things that happen, especially, well, at all levels. But as one example, if a zoning board makes a decision and you don't appeal that within 30 days, you can never appeal it. You can just never take it to court. Same thing, if the Pennsylvania DEP gives a Clean Water Act permit and you don't appeal that within 30 days, you're done. Doesn't matter if it's wrong, doesn't matter if the DEP approved and said that a company could just chuck 50-gallon barrels of toxic waste into the river. If you don't appeal it within 30 days, You can't. So it's really, really important to kind of understand that these systems are going on and you have to pay attention to them. So this is one of the pieces that I just wanted to really point out is that these is what we kind of call the soil. This is exists in the world right now. There is precedent. There is copious amounts of case law where judges have looked at the law and said this is how this should be interpreted. Statutes, right? Legislators debate, ultimately put out statutes. Agencies make regulations, and there are decision makers that are implementing these, right? Decision makers in the EPA, decision makers on your local board of zoning, uh, local commissioners, whatnot. So these are already in place. They already exist out there. And all of the decisions that are going to be happening in your community are going to be filtered through these things, right? So it's really, really important that you understand uh, both that this exists, how it's going to be affecting the decision makers, and potentially how you can get them to be changed, right? And that's the core of democracy. If you do not like the precedent, well, then you better get some legislators into office to make some statutes to override that precedent. If you don't like the statutes, again, you need legislators to change that. You don't like the regulations, you need governors or presidents that are going to push their agencies to change those regulations. So it's really, really important to understand that this is already out there and already kind of molding your experience and molding our society.
Thanks, Tim.
You're welcome,
And
Megan.
you're already all like bought into this because you're here, right? And we know so many of you are doing incredible job, even amongst the frustrating parts that our democracy is in its messiness at its core. And Sally made a beautiful point that we have to learn how to use our democracy. To do so, we'll have a vibrant democracy.
Mhm.
So, how do we actually do this?